with you. I have no problem functioning.
Okay.
I've talked about it in this podcast. I've had classes with gay people. You know, I've had to interact with gay people. It's not a thing where I'm like hesitant. I could function with them. I don't support you though, and if they ask, they'll know. Sometimes the way you walk, they'll know automatically, but if they ask, they'll know. So
Ooh, I got one more question too.
let's do it.
But I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna say this part.
Okay,
I'm
go.
gonna save this one. This one, whew, the church folk are gonna be mad at me on this one.
Oh man.
But is this
That's our
conversation
demographic.
homophobic? You said no.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think that I'm not scared that if I were walking down the street and I saw an LGBTQIA or a plus sign, I wouldn't be scared. I would accept, I would talk to you, and I would love you with the love of God. And that this isn't meant to be a hate speech. This is meant to tell you that if I love
Hate
you,
speech.
if I love you, and I see you in the middle of the street and you're about to get hit by a car, I'm going to tell you to get out of the way. And that's what I'm telling you right now. That this isn't right. And it's not what God intended. And so that's me crying loud in the spirit not. So no, I'm not afraid. Discomforted? No, not naturally. It's more of a spiritual thing. Like anything around me that I think is sinful. Like if someone cusses too much, I'm going to be discomforted.
Definitely.
So I believe
definitely
it's the
agree
same.
with that.
A mistrust? I mean, that's a weird...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think naturally you should mistrust someone who's in sin. You know?
Yeah.
Like certain things. You know, you wouldn't trust someone who has a covetous issue or greedy issue with money. That type of
But
thing.
as a person, if my family member were gay, I would still love them. But
Yeah.
there's going to be some boundaries.
We've
that
talked
we
about
got.
this.
Yeah, we've talked about this,
Yeah.
and those episodes are coming out very soon. So if you follow us at TMTT Podcast, you'll watch them. But
hate speech, they might have got us on hate speech though.
maybe. But what I'm saying is, if my family were gay, I was about to say friends, but I wouldn't have, because we'd be walking a different way. That would be wrong for both of us, because
Male, female.
Yeah, but I'm saying that I would love them, and the people that I'm talking to now that I've met or maybe never met, maybe you have one of those secreted things. I love you, and I'm praying for you, and this is all from love, and that there's always a place for you. That if you have any of these issues, that you can come to the church. That's one thing that I want to share and I want to be very expressive about now. Is that if you have any form of homosexuality, if that's what you believe your identity is and that's what you identify as, you can still come to church. And you're just like everybody else that walked in before. Such were some of you.
And I don't want to tell you the truth, because a lot of times when people say go to church, they already have a preconceived notion as to what church is. There's people in church that have been exactly where you've been at. If you really want help, you could go to the church and find those people. You're not going to find that type of help anywhere else, really, if you're trying to be saved and also get the help you need. So
Yeah, they got us on hate speech.
yeah, they got us on hate
they
speech.
did.
It's okay though.
It could be offensive, but
Where was that?
Jesus always offended somebody.
Yeah, someone's always.
They literally tried to throw him off a cliff.
Yeah.
So, whatever. The one question that I wanted to share with you,
Okay.
and to make this podcast extra long, because I know that this is a good one. I really like it.
Let's do it.
I really like it. So we're
I
gonna
do
give you
too.
a
This
treat.
is a good convo.
That was a weird laugh.
It was. It's okay though.
Yeah, I'll keep it in. But in the church, I've seen a couple churches to where they have a praise leader.
Oh boy.
They have a couple choir members. They have a couple people that are soft.
Yeah.
And that's just things that you'll see. That's not every church, and that's not a truth church. But I'm talking about in general. There's some artists that I've seen
Yeah. Seen that.
that say that they represent God, but then are as soft as Charmin. Like, what do you think about that, man?
What do I think about that?
Is that a sin?
Is that a sin? Well,
Yeah, well,
we've already touched about it biblically. Yes, it's a sin. Being effeminate is a sin. I think.
and how do you stop?
I think the real issue here is that it's unaddressed. You have people that are clearly effeminate.
That
And
voice crack meant that you
was-
have some things in mind.
There was energy behind that. Yes. But you have people that were clearly
Musicians?
musicians. I've seen that.
I've seen it.
Praise leaders. I've definitely seen that. And they're up in front. They're unaddressed. And I think it puts a stain on people who call themselves Christians, because
it does.
you identify as one thing, but then people who are in sin identify with that. And it's hard to tell people, hey, come to church, when you see the praise leader and they're like, I'm trying to change, but you're looking just like me. Yeah. So it definitely does a disservice to Christians. And that's why I don't even like that word, Christian, all the way. Just because of culture, everyone's a Christian. You go on campus, come to our Bible study group. There's like 4 or 5 Bible study groups in one corner. So like, long tangent. Anyways, it does a disservice to our people, saints. Our people's crazy. But yeah, that's my answer to that.
No, and I think that's definitely true. And I think that if you are in a church and you see that, I think that you should pray for them. I'd say that in every instance, sometimes that you can't directly address it, and I'd leave that to more of a pastor's, but I'd pray for them. Because a lot of times I've seen people that deal with that, especially in church, have had that prior trauma that we talked about.
Yeah.
And that's just some things that only God can heal. And so you pray for them, and you don't back down necessarily in that prayer, but you...
Yeah, and that's really a tricky situation. Because,
it is.
I mean, usually praise leaders are endorsed by the pastor, the musicians. That type of thing is really, it's a can of worms. Because it's usually a lot deeper than what we see, Yeah. So that's a tough question. Definitely.
That is a really tough question.
Someone's going to be upset.
That's a question that a couple people have in mind while they hear us talk about.
Definitely.
And
it's good to know the truth. Definitely.
It is. Because we had, in our church, a while back, we had a guy that was a transgender, so a transgender woman. Which
was I here?
Which, if it were a real woman, we'd just say woman.
I was here for that?
I think so.
Okay.
And they walked in, and, I was indifferent. Because if you need help, if you need help, you come to the right place.
Exactly.
But in talking and in just the conversation that, I didn't talk to them, but it seemed like they had a fine time and they left. But if I were preaching, if I were talking, you do? Yeah. If I were preaching them, would I hold back on what I was saying? Or if it were the truth, or if I was led of God to say it? Not necessarily. And that's one scripture that I really wanted to say before we close, was we hit on everything. We hit on homosexuality, which is man to man, like a cable.
Or woman to woman.
Or woman to woman. Mm-hmm. I feel like woman to animal, we don't have to.
That's
that's an abomination.
I don't think that's even part of Pride Month, low key.
I don't know. They've been
getting crazy. I don't know. Wait a minute. I don't want to co-sign or nothing.
Furries.
Yeah. Furries, that's...
Hey, if you don't know what it is, just don't look it up. Yeah. But there's one group of people that we haven't talked about, and that was T's, the trans.
Yeah, we didn't really hit it too hard.
We didn't hit it too hard, but it's not that hard to hit. Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 5. The woman shall not wear that which pertaineth unto a man, neither shall a man put on a woman's garments. For all that do so are an abomination unto the Lord thy God. It's an abomination to the Lord. Don't do it. And vice versa. This is... What is that? What's
okay,
that?
So yeah, now I'm
gonna
I'm gonna keep it really cut. All right, so Ethan already said once, God created man and woman. Matthew 19:4 tells us this. Mark 10:6 tells us this. Genesis 1:27 tells us this. There's only man and woman. Now, another argument for people that are transgenders is that they don't identify as the gender. Now, there's a difference between sex and gender.
There's not.
You notice that in the Spider movie, she was pregnant. She said, "We don't know the sex yet." That's the New Age stuff where they have.
Oh, that's trippy.
Yeah, I know, right?
I didn't know.
Into the Spider-Verse.
Did you see the trans flag on there?
No.
They had a trans flag.
No way.
Yeah, they did.
Nah, I didn't see. That movie's too deep for me.
Yeah.
But yes, they're not different. Biblically, they're not different. If you're a man, you have a hot dog. If you're a woman, you have a hot dog bun, right? So that type of thing. Am I gonna get canceled?
No, you don't get canceled.
Cool. So,
hey, you know what? We'll just stop you right there. All the notes are in the description. This is the Tell Me the Truth podcast. You can follow us on Instagram, TikTok at TMTT